The attack came without warning. For the first few moments, there was nothing but silence. No alarms, no cries of panic. Just the dark, serene expanse of space above Earth. The invaders were already within firing range before Earth's systems even had a chance to react. Admiral Valane Riker was in her command center when it happened. The massive underground bunker nestled beneath the Martian plains had been a fortress of strategy and calm. Now, it was a hive of chaos. The first reports came in, barely legible over the static. Multiple alien ships entering Earth's atmosphere. Shuttles breaking through orbital defenses. Riker stood still for a fraction of a second. Her mind processed the words faster than her body could respond. Then, her voice, hard and cold, cut through the panic. Deploy all remaining defense fleets. Activate the planetary shields. I want every last satellite mobilized now. But it was too late. Before her command reached the fleets, before the first fighter squadrons could scramble, the sky exploded. Plasma bolts, each the size of a small moon, crashed into Earth's surface, creating massive impact zones. The cities of New York, Tokyo, and Paris vanished in a single flash of fire. Thousands of orbital stations, which once acted as beacons of humanity's progress, disintegrated in a wave of destruction. The attackers weren't just bombarding. They were hunting, erasing humanity's most strategic locations with ruthless precision. Riker's hands clenched into fists. On the screen in front of her, an image flickered. Earth's central hub, the grand city of Solus, was already falling apart. Buildings crumbled under the weight of energy-based bombardments, while fleeing civilians were swallowed by the Earth as the shockwaves rumbled through the atmosphere. "Admiral, the gravity generators are failing," a voice called out from one of the side consoles. "The planet's core is destabilizing. Radiation spikes detected from the impact zones." Riker's heart skipped. The gravity generators were meant to keep Earth's orbit stable, but now they were failing. If they didn't act quickly, the planet would start tearing itself apart. But she didn't flinch. "Divert all power to the planetary shields. Even if we're dying, we will make them pay." The screen before her shifted, showing the incoming alien fleet. It was a mixture of dark, sleek ships, disturbingly organic-looking, as though the ships themselves were alive, pulsating with energy. The Shari, Thrak, and Koldarans, they had been preparing for this for months, perhaps years. Humanity hadn't even known they were enemies. "I want every weapon we have at full charge," she ordered. "Earth won't die today." As the first wave of alien ships entered the atmosphere, Riker's gaze locked onto the screen. Her hand, steady and unwavering, moved to the tactical panel. The war for humanity's survival had just begun. The attack came without warning. For the first few moments, there was nothing but silence. No alarms, no cries of panic. Just the dark, serene expanse of space above Earth. The invaders were already within firing range before Earth's systems even had a chance to react. Admiral Valane Riker was in her command center when it happened. The massive underground bunker nestled beneath the Martian plains had been a fortress of strategy and calm. Now, it was a hive of chaos. The first reports came in, barely legible over the static. Multiple alien ships entering Earth's atmosphere. Shuttles breaking through orbital defenses. Riker stood still for a fraction of a second. Her mind processed the words faster than her body could respond. Then, her voice, hard and cold, cut through the panic. "Deploy all remaining defense fleets. Activate the planetary shields. I want every last satellite mobilized now." But it was too late. Before her command reached the fleets, before the first fighter squadrons could scramble, the sky exploded. Plasma bolts, each the size of a small moon, crashed into Earth's surface, creating massive impact zones. The cities of New York, Tokyo, and Paris vanished in a single flash of fire. Thousands of orbital stations, which once acted as beacons of humanity's progress, disintegrated in a wave of destruction. The attackers weren't just bombarding. They were hunting, erasing humanity's most strategic locations with ruthless precision. Riker's hands clenched into fists. On the screen in front of her, an image flickered. Earth's central hub, the grand city of Solus, was already falling apart. Buildings crumbled under the weight of energy-based bombardments, while fleeing civilians were swallowed by the Earth as the shockwaves rumbled through the atmosphere. "Admiral, the gravity generators are failing," the voice called out from one of the side consoles. "The planet's core is destabilizing. Radiation spikes detected from the impact zones." Riker's heart skipped. The gravity generators were meant to keep Earth's orbit stable, but now they were failing. If they didn't act quickly, the planet would start tearing itself apart. But she didn't flinch. "Divert all power to the planetary shields. Even if we're dying, we will make them pay." The screen before her shifted, showing the incoming alien fleet. It was a mixture of dark, sleek ships, disturbingly organic-looking, as though the ships themselves were alive, pulsating with energy. The Shari, Thrak, and Koldarans, they had been preparing for this for months, perhaps years. Humanity hadn't even known they were enemies. "I want every weapon we have at full charge," she ordered. "Earth won't die today." As the first wave of alien ships entered the atmosphere, Riker's gaze locked onto the screen. Her hand, steady and unwavering, moved to the tactical panel. The war for humanity's survival had just begun. As the fleet of the Terran Accord gathered, humanity's retaliatory efforts were not just focused on brute force. Riker knew that to truly strike at the heart of the alien alliance, humanity had to understand their enemies in ways that went beyond firepower. The enemy had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity's capacity for survival, but they also underestimated humanity's ingenuity, and Riker was prepared to exploit every advantage. The Echo Talon Unit, a covert ops team composed of humanity's most elite soldiers, was deployed on a high-risk mission. Their objective was clear: infiltrate enemy territory, retrieve intelligence, and, if possible, discover the true reason behind a coordinated attack on Earth. Commander Celine Koss, Riker's most trusted operative, led the mission. Her skills in covert operations and her ability to extract information from even the most secure systems were unmatched. The Echo Talon team infiltrated the heart of the Shari Dominion, one of the three factions that had masterminded the invasion. The Shari, a race of advanced, insectoid creatures with highly developed technology, had long held an iron grip over their empire, operating in the shadows of the galaxy. They were known for their ruthlessness, but also for their deep fear of humanity's rapid technological growth. But what had driven them to strike now? Koss and her team smuggled themselves onto the Shari Homeworld, a planet buried deep within the confines of a nebula. It was a place so secure, so isolated, that even the most advanced Terran ships had difficulty locating it. The mission was simple: gain access to the Shari High Command's central database, extract critical intel, and get out. But in the galaxy's dark corners, nothing was ever simple. As Koss infiltrated the Shari data vaults, she uncovered a disturbing truth. The attack on Earth wasn't just a random act of aggression. It was a preemptive strike. The Shari had feared that humanity's technological innovations, particularly their rapid advancements in artificial intelligence and energy weaponry, would soon surpass their own capabilities. The Thrak and Koldaran empires, both facing their own existential crisis, had aligned with the Shari in a bid to eradicate Earth before humanity could challenge their dominance. Koss downloaded the data and made her escape, but not without leaving a trail of chaos behind her. As she departed, she activated a series of data sabotage protocols to ensure the Shari couldn't cover their tracks. But the damage was done. The truth was out. Back aboard the AV Retribution, Riker received the intel. The enemy's strategy was now clear. Earth wasn't just a target. It had been a symbol, a test, and Riker wasn't about to let them get away with it. As the data streamed into the command center, Riker's eyes narrowed, her voice low and determined. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to make the galaxy remember why they should fear humanity. The hunt for those responsible had just shifted into a new phase. And this time, humanity would strike first. With the full extent of the alien coalition's treachery laid bare, humanity's retaliation came like a storm. The AV Retribution, now fully operational, led the charge, its massive cannons capable of turning enemy fleets into rubble. Riker's words echoed through the ship's corridors. We will no longer wait for them to strike first. We will make them regret their miscalculation. Humanity was now on the offensive, and the galaxy would soon learn just how ruthless Earth could be. The first target was the Calderon Enclave, an aggressive, militaristic race of conquerors who had been more than eager to join the invasion. Their homeworld, Coldor Prime, sat in the heart of a dense asteroid field, heavily fortified, and nearly impossible to breach. But Riker had never believed in impossibilities. The Terran fleet, a newly formed force of dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, and support ships, gathered at the edge of Coldor space. For the first time, humanity's military might was unified and prepared for war. And the Coldorans would soon learn the price of their ambition. We've tracked their supply lines, Riker told her officers, her voice calm despite the fury of the impending assault. We cut off their reinforcements. We'd break their will. The battle strategy was both brutal and brilliant. Riker knew the Coldorans relied heavily on their heavily armed ships to overwhelm enemies with brute force. The key was to strike quickly and disrupt their command structure, hitting them where it would hurt the most. As the Terran fleet entered Calderon space, the enemy fleet moved to engage, confident that their superior numbers would crush the humans. But Riker had prepared them for this moment. Humanity's newest ships were equipped with advanced AI-driven targeting systems that could predict enemy movements, while Terran engineers had integrated technology scavenged from the battlefield into their weaponry. The first wave of Calderon ships was decimated by pinpoint antimatter shots before they even had a chance to retaliate. As the AV Retribution cut through the enemy fleet, Riker gave the order to deploy boarding teams. The Coldorans had no defense against human tenacity. Riker's forces stormed their command stations, taking the bridges of their warships in brutal close-quarters combat. The Coldorans, used to overwhelming force, were unprepared for the speed and relentlessness of the human attack. The battle raged for hours, but by the time the sun set on Coldor Prime, the once mighty Calderon fleet was in tatters. The remaining enemy forces scrambled to retreat, but it was too late. We've crippled them. Riker's voice was a grim satisfaction. Their arrogance has cost them everything. Humanity had sent its first message, a warning. No one would be safe from the consequences of underestimating Earth's resolve. The war was no longer just about vengeance. It was about proving that humanity would never kneel again. As the fleet gathered its wounded and prepared for the next phase, Riker's eyes remained fixed on the stars. The red tide of humanity's wrath had only just begun. The victory over the Coldorans sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but it came at a high cost. Despite their decisive triumph, humanity had not emerged unscathed. The battle for Coldor Prime had been brutal, and many ships in the Terran fleet were heavily damaged. Riker's flagship, the AV Retribution, had taken significant hits, and its crew was working around the clock to repair the damage. The victory, though sweet, had left Earth's forces with a brutal reminder. War had consequences. Despite this, the morale of the Terran Accord was high. The Coldorans, once thought invincible, had fallen to humanity's resolve. The message had been sent. Earth was not to be trifled with. But as Riker gazed out across the ruins of the Calderon Empire, she knew the battle was far from over. The real war had just begun. Commander Kaz, Riker called into the comms, her voice steady, but tinged with something darker. Prepare your team. We're taking the fight to the heart of their empire. The next target was the Shari Dominion, the masterminds behind the invasion of Earth. The Shari had long been an enigma, an ancient insectoid species that wielded advanced biotechnology and dark psionic powers. They were a calculating, cold race, known for their secretive ways and ruthless military strategies. But they were also the most vulnerable. Their empire had grown complacent, their overconfidence now their greatest weakness. Riker's plan was simple: strike at the heart of the Shari Dominion, break their most important military strongholds, and force them to the negotiating table. But to do that, they would need to breach the seemingly impenetrable defenses of the Shari capital, a planet known only as Aether to those who had survived their raids. Commander Koss, who had been crucial in uncovering the Shari's motives, now stood on the precipice of a mission that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Infiltrating Aether was no small feat. The planet was a fortress, shrouded in both physical and psionic defenses. Koss's Special Ops team, Echo Talon, was humanity's best hope. "I studied the layout," Koss said, her eyes narrowing as she examined the holographic display of Aether. "We infiltrate, disable their central command, and destroy the heart of their fleet. Once their leadership is crippled, the rest will fall." Riker's eyes locked onto the map. Make it happen. The attack on Aether was set in motion, but Riker knew that this would not be a quick strike. Aether was a symbol of the Shari's power, and humanity's assault would be a declaration that Earth was no longer a vulnerable planet to be wiped away by the whims of alien empires. They were about to tear down the foundation of the Shari's rule. The galaxy had already seen the cost of underestimating humanity's wrath, but Aether would be the true test. Would the galaxy bend before humanity's might, or would the Shari's ancient empire prove too strong to topple? Riker wasn't about to wait for the answer. The time for peace had passed. The assault on Aether began under the cover of deep space. The Terran fleet, though battered and scarred from its recent campaign, had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. The AV Retribution and its accompanying ships silently approached the darkened outskirts of the Shari homeworld. The closer they got, the more the chilling silence of the void wrapped around them. They were about to strike at the heart of an empire. But the deeper they ventured into Shari space, the more Riker's unease grew. She'd known the risks of confronting the Shari on their home turf, but now, as the gravity of the situation pressed down on her, she realized just how far she'd pushed humanity. Aether was not just a planet. It was a monument to everything the Shari had built over centuries. It was a place where they had honed their most dangerous weapons, perfected their psionic technologies, and where their most formidable warriors had trained. Riker was about to lead her fleet into the jaws of a lion. Koss and the Echo Talon team were already on the ground, and reports were coming in fast and furious. The infiltration had gone smoothly at first, but the deeper they went into the planet's core, the more they realized the Shari had anticipated this strike. Every step forward was met with traps, ambushes, and psionic warfare designed to disorient and break the human will. The Shari knew how to fight with the mind, and they were using it against Koss and her team. "We've encountered resistance," Koss's voice crackled over the comms. "They're using psionics. We can't trust our own senses. We need more support now." Riker's heart pounded as she listened to the report. The psionics, an ancient Shari weapon capable of warping reality itself through telepathy and psionic manipulation, was a game-changer. No one had truly understood how deadly it was until now. "Hold your position, Commander," Riker said, her voice a mixture of command and concern. "We're coming to you." She turned to her bridge crew. "Prepare for orbital bombardment. The moment Koss gives the signal, we wipe out every single piece of Shari infrastructure within a 500-kilometer radius." Riker's orders were not just for the fleet's sake, they were for Koss. Echo Talon was humanity's best hope, and if they didn't survive, the mission would fail. The Terran fleet had to break the Shari stronghold, but Riker was determined that her people would not be crushed beneath the weight of their enemy's power. Meanwhile, Koss and her team fought through the oppressive atmosphere of Aether, their every step haunted by visions, by whispers in their minds. Despair. The Shari were using their most dangerous weapon against them, attempting to break their spirits before the physical combat even began. But Koss, always unyielding, was not a woman to be broken. "You think this will stop us?" Kos growled, slashing through another Shari soldier. "This is just another challenge. We are Earth's finest. We're here to destroy you." Kos's resolve was the anchor her team needed. As the chaos of Aether's deep caverns echoed around them, her voice rallied the soldiers forward. They pushed onward, closer to the heart of Shari power, where the future of the war would be decided. Above them, Riker's fleet loomed, preparing for a devastating strike. Aether would fall. Whether the Terran fleet could survive the coming storm was a question that haunted every officer on the bridge of the AV Retribution. But one thing was certain: the price of humanity's vengeance would soon be paid in full. The heart of Aether was a sprawling labyrinth of ancient stone and biotechnological spires, an alien cityscape that stretched deeper into the planet's crust than any human had ever ventured. Commander Kos and her Echo Talon team had cut through the defenses and reached the core of the Shari's command center, but they were met with something far darker than they had imagined. The Shari High Command awaited them, not with guns or ships, but with a weapon far more insidious: the hive mind. The hive mind was the ultimate expression of Shari psionic power, an interconnected network of consciousnesses that could control the thoughts and actions of every Shari on the planet. But it wasn't just a weapon, it was a prison. The minds of millions of Shari warriors, civilians, and leaders had been bound together, their identities lost in the collective whole. The Echo Talon team now found themselves up against a force that didn't merely fight. It knew their every thought, their every fear. Kos stumbled for a moment as the psionic pulse hit, her vision swimming. The whispers started immediately: voices, cries, promises of oblivion. The hive mind sought to crush them under the weight of its sheer presence. "Stay focused," Kos barked, rallying her team. "Fight the pull, don't let them take you." But the deeper they went into the heart of Aether, the stronger the hive's influence became. The team could feel their sense of self slipping away, drowned by the overwhelming tide of Shari consciousness. In the thick of it all, Kos felt something dark and ancient stirring, something more than just the psionic link, a will, a presence, older than the Shari themselves. She realized with a sinking feeling that this wasn't just a weapon of war. It was the embodiment of the Shari's long-forgotten god, Ishar, the one who ruled their minds for millennia. "Ishar," Kos muttered under her breath, recognizing the ancient name. "They've been feeding it for centuries. Their entire society has been built around this thing. It's the source of their power." Before she could say more, the ground trembled beneath them. The hive mind had sensed their awareness, and the full weight of Ishar's malevolent presence crashed down on them. The team's movements slowed, their minds becoming disjointed, fragmented. Kos fought to maintain control, her hand gripping the pulse rifle as she pushed forward, unwilling to succumb. "Signal the fleet," she shouted. "Now. We need orbital support now." Above Aether, the AV Retribution and the rest of the Terran fleet hovered like vultures, waiting for Kos's command. Riker was on edge, her eyes glued to the comm screen, awaiting the signal. The tension in the bridge was palpable. "We have to time this perfectly," Riker said, her voice low but commanding. "We strike at the heart of their empire and annihilate the hive. The moment Kos gives the word, we bombard Aether's core with everything we have." The fleet was ready, but their timing had to be flawless. The battle to topple the Shari Dominion hinged on one moment: the destruction of the hive mind. And Riker knew that the fate of not only Earth, but of the galaxy itself, rested on Kos's shoulders. Kos's team pushed forward, finding their way through the swirling chaos. They were close. So close to shattering the core of Shari power. All that stood between them and victory was a mind that had never known defeat. But even as Kos fought to stay in control, the war for Aether had already begun. One way or another, the hive would fall. "You said." The air on Aether's surface had thickened with tension, every breath weighed down by the sheer mental pressure emanating from the hive mind. Kas and her team were nearing the core of the Shari stronghold, the pulsating heart of the hive, a place where the lines between the physical and the psionic blurred. Every step forward felt like a battle, not just for their bodies but for their very minds. "Stay with me," Kas whispered, her voice shaking but resolute. Her team moved in tight formation, their rifles raised, eyes darting nervously. They could feel the hive pressing in, the psionic connection so strong now it was like a living thing, winding its tendrils into their consciousness, probing their fears. Kas resisted. She wasn't just fighting the Shari. She was fighting centuries of Shari domination, the cold grip of Ashar, the dark psionic entity that had bound its people together for millennia. But Kas knew one thing: she would not be the one to break. Not this time. And then the signal came. "Echo Talon, move to the core. We've got your back." The voice came through the comms, Riker's voice, clear and unwavering. With that, the team surged forward, their every step filled with purpose. They had no choice but to fight past the overwhelming psionic waves flooding their senses. But it was no longer just their willpower at stake. The Terran fleet was above, ready to unleash everything they had, but they would not strike until the moment was right, until the hive was exposed. Finally, they reached the core. The center of the hive was a massive chamber, a grotesque fusion of living creatures and alien technology. Thousands of Shari minds pulsed in the center of the room, their consciousnesses linked to Ashar, whose presence loomed larger than life in the chamber. It was a massive, shadowy figure, its form fluid, ever-changing, made of tendrils of dark energy and psychic power. Ashar was not just a god. It was a collective nightmare, its power extending beyond the physical into the very fabric of the universe. "This ends now," Kas muttered, her voice a promise. With one swift motion, she activated the device that would disrupt the hive's psionic link, a disruptor prototyped designed by humanity's brightest minds. The device hummed to life, sending a wave of energy through the room, sending the hive's psychic network into chaos. For a brief moment, everything went quiet. The hive's grip on Kas and her team loosened. The psionic field shattered like glass, and for the first time, the Shari minds were free. But the cost was immediate. Ashar screamed, a sound that could only be described as the cry of a dying god. "Now," Kas screamed. Above, the fleet responded. Riker's voice cut through the chaos, commanding the strike. "Orbital bombardment now. Wipe them out." From the sky, the fleet unleashed their fury. The AV Retribution and the rest of the Terran warships fired their full payload. Antimatter bombs, ion cannons, and EMP pulses, all directed at the core of Aether. The ground trembled violently, and the entire planet seemed to shudder as explosions cascaded through the atmosphere. The hive mind, Ashar's prison, disintegrated in a brilliant, searing light. And then, silence. Kas and her team watched in awe as the energy of the final strike consumed the planet. Aether, the center of the Shari Dominion's power, was no more. The war had reached its climax, and humanity had claimed victory. As the Terran fleet regrouped and began to retreat from the shattered remains of Aether, Riker's voice echoed through the comms. "This is just the beginning. But today, we've made the galaxy remember. Humanity will not be erased." The battle for Earth had turned into a war for the future of the galaxy. But in that moment, there was only one undeniable truth. Humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. They were a force to be reckoned with. And no one, no empire, no god, could stand in their way.